In the name of the light of God that never fails, beloved Sanat Kumara, hear my call, hear my voice, O God, in this hour, for the liberation of the souls, the minds, the hearts, and the bodies of these thy servant sons and daughters. Beloved Ma Chohan, beloved Serapis Bey, nourish now the keepers of the flame of life and liberty on earth. O Jesus, beloved Magda, beloved Mother Mary, beloved Saint Germain, come forth in this hour of God's victory within us. Come forth, O legions of the first ray of beloved El Moria, beloved Archangel Michael, beloved Elohim of the first ray. Come forth, O legions of light and cosmic Christ illumination, Goddess of liberty, Lord Lanto and Confucius, Jophiel and Christine, Elohim of the second ray, come forth. I summon the hosts of the Lord in this hour. O Divine Mother, hear our plea now. Come forth and strip us of all unreality. Let the mighty flame of cosmos' secret rays burn brightly now upon this altar. Beloved Alpha, beloved Omega, establish thy twin pillars of sacred fire burning. Beloved Samuel and Charity, beloved Paul the Venetian, Elohim of the third ray, come forth. Living light of the eternal one, Sanat Kumara, now let thy light descend and intensify in the heart of the earth. Flame of the Holy of Holies, flame of the Ark of the Covenant, legions of Archangel Gabriel, come forth in this hour. Almighty God, flame, hear our call. Mighty God, flame, and Zarathustra, hear our call. Legions of the seventh ray, Elohim of the seventh ray, beloved Zadkiel, beloved Holy Amethyst, beloved Saint Germain and Portia, beloved Lords of Karma, send legions of light to this city and every city and nation upon earth. We demand the action of the sacred fire of the fourth ray. Elohim of purity, beloved Estrella, beloved mighty purity, come forth. Come forth, Divine Mother, in this hour. Come forth now and intensify thy call and light within us. Clear our four lower bodies. Establish now the sacred fire for the clearing of the planetary home. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, and the Mother. Amen. Beloved hosts of the Lord, beloved legions of Serapis Bay, beloved Alpha and Omega, we draw forth from the heart of God in this hour the mighty tube of light, sealing us, our soul, body, mind, and being in this world and above, 7 planes of being from the heart of the earth to the heart of the great central sun. Let the shaft descend. Let thy light bearers now be intensified in this living flame, O God. Therefore we say, Oh my God, the loving I am present, the light of God above me, use radiance from the second of fire before me to light my way. I am revealing all in the day, the life of my own body. I am God present on the body right now today. Even in that, every blessing from the manifesting and the bring that God beautiful life without the human get about. It is better than the second of the body, so that we die better than the body, better give me that anyway. Go everybody, Let us sing to beloved Serapis Bay. Number 224. Serapis Bay! Hail, Serapis Bay! Hail, Serapis Bay! Hail, Serapis Bay! Thank you. Won't you be seated? I express my gratitude to God in heaven and on earth, in all of cosmos and in your hearts, to be able to stand on this altar and to preach the word of Serapis Bay. I well remember the centuries when this was not allowed, and when many of us were put to death for teaching a religion other than that of Jesus Christ. Serapis Bay is well known and was well known. His name is an ancient name. When I came, not as a Christian, but as Hypatia, teaching philosophy, science, mathematics, teaching those things other than the Christian school, even in the very flame and sponsorship of Serapis Bay. These maddened monks of the Christian church, the early Christian church, put me to death, not so much for what I was preaching and teaching, but because they were losing their congregations and converts to what they considered to be a pagan school. So you see, for 2,000 years, I have been known as a pagan. We can make friends with the pagan gods. We can make friends with those who have taken the hierarchy of Christ unto themselves. But where the light is embodied, those who are the enemies of the light in whatever camp their fanaticism may re-embody, they still persecute the light of the great white brotherhood. I tell you this not to resurrect a record of martyrdom or a heinous act, but rather to show you that I am alive forevermore. And this is the victory of the light. And therefore I am free to proclaim to you the word and the light, not only of Serapis Bay in the very heart of Luxor, Serapis Bay, a great hierarch of light, one of great attainment, magnificence, discipline, and the purest love for your very special heart. We pause at the end of this week, amidst all of our occupations and preoccupations, in the very service of the brotherhood, to contemplate the mystery of the Guru-Chela relationship. It is wondrous to enjoy, and we must not forget that this very essence, this mystical union, is why we are here. If we enter into a sense of drudgery, of burden, and then burden that leads to blame, we lose the precious light, the nectar, that is the offering of those who have sacrificed far more than I, far more than all of us, that the earth might have this light and this presence. And so it is with great joy that I bring to you their message this evening. Moria gave to me a little bit of imagery that he would like you to have to understand our subject. He said, tell them, imagine that you, the Chela, are now wearing a large magnet around your neck. In fact, it may be larger or smaller, and that I, El Moria, should stand before you and throw into the room bits and pieces of iron, of all sizes and shapes, from the finest dust to larger pieces. Depending on the size of the magnet you are wearing, you will attract some of it. If you have no magnet, you may be in the way of the barrage, but it will not cling to you. In fact, he says, you are wearing a magnet. The magnet is your electronic belt, your dweller on the threshold. And in fact, the returning world karma of Taurus on the 4 o'clock line this year is all of the debris that must return, that has been put in space by the fallen ones, plus the dust of your own returning karma. So wherever you are in the world in this season, there is a particular substance that is going forth, and if you have an affinity or a magnet in yourself that is like it, you will attract it. It's like the electricity that you pick up and then gather to yourself fragments of dust or lint. So we are all in that position today, and this is why Jesus taught us to fast and pray, fasting away our human karma, placing it into the flame. He taught us that one must be ready for the day of the dark cycle of the return of planetary karma, the return of the last plagues. As the vials are poured out, and as you look at the painting of Archangel Michael on the cover of the book, The Vials, you see it looks like iron filings or metallic dust. And it is picked up and it goes directly. It is like the hairs of the head that are numbered. It has the number of the beast on it. And the beast is the dweller on the threshold. And the number of the beast is the number of its karma, the number of the human creation it has put out. And so it is drawn back. Unerringly, it must go to its source, even as we unerringly must return to our God source by the very same principle of our magnetization of the white fire, the sacred fire in our beings. And therefore, we establish that polarity with the I Am Presence. The question is, which pull is greater? Which is the greater pull? Is it the pull of the magnet within ourselves that contains within it the desire to be a part of the world and therefore unwittingly becomes a part of the dark cycle and its returning karma, and then gives us great burden and struggle and a warring with our inner members within those members? Or is the greater pull the memory of God, the first-hand knowledge of communion with the Masters, a love so great that all other things of this world are far beneath them? I think that it is therefore meet to contemplate this profound relationship we have with each and every ascended master, not merely with thousands of numberless numbers, like a crowd in a stadium where you don't recognize a face, but think of your personal walk with Serapis Bey, with Kuthumi, with El Moria, with Saint Germain. I often reminisce simply for the reinforcement of the magnet of my own heart, the very special moments that I have shared with the Brotherhood when they have taken the time to manifest themselves so physically to me, so personally, and to show me the intimacy and the reality of their association, their presence, and their protection. Many times the Masters occupy a plane in spirit so high in order to deliver to us the intensity of the light that is necessary, that they do not put on form. They do not put on a form that becomes so tangible that we feel the Master walk in the room and hear his footsteps or the rustling of his garments. So we must not always be waiting for the Master or the angel to tap us on the shoulder, give us a kind word of encouragement. We are supposed to be the Master, And the point of coming to us so presently in the dictations is that personal presence in firing us. Now we, as soon as the Master has concluded his dictation, we are the Master, we are his electronic presence, we do assimilate that light, and we are taught to call for its assimilation. And in that moment, from the moment we leave on Sunday morning, we are that Master for the week. We go forth wearing their garment. We go forth feeling, what's it like to be Serapis Bey? What is it like to be El Moria or Lord Krishna? And we have the opportunity for 7 days in the 7 bodies of the Master to walk this campus, to do our work, having access to a causal body that has been opened to us through the spoken word, through a dictation. And if we realize what a tremendous import that is, to consider that in fact the long dreamt of experience, that which is sought in the Himalayas and sought for centuries, the actual meeting personally of a Master occurs every Sunday in a new dictation with a new Master and a new release of light from the old Masters. That we have that direct encounter, and that it is very profound, very special. It comes by a dispensation in this particular decade. We have no guarantee this fount will carry on forever, that there will be a continuous stream of messengers or even a community to support it. But we know one thing, that now it is real. Now it is real. Now that is the reality of our life. And if we do not pause to realize how special this is, then we can become so preoccupied with another relationship, and that's the relationship of the inner magnet to the outer magnet. And that is when we begin to totally revolve around the outer world, its outer preoccupations, its demands. We become overly introspective. We analyze to a point of self-destruction, not because it isn't healthy to analyze oneself and know the strengths and weaknesses, but because in too much preoccupation and too much analysis, what has happened is we have taken our eye off of the presence too long. And therefore the direct contact and the flow of the I Am presence into us not being continuous, we are deprived of the strength and the protection we need. We feel the burdens of the karma of the world. We have magnetized them, and we feel the heavy load that we are carrying without the benefit of this communion that we know is right here and so very tangible. El Moria and Serapis Bey have sent me this evening to dedicate our service to the clearing of the electronic belt, the 4 o'clock line, the 410 axis, the third eye, in polarity with the seat of the soul chakra, of all of those who are the co-workers of the Brotherhood here at Camelot, and of our keepers of the flame in the area and in the field. And he has explained to me that in attention to the detail of removing the magnet on this 410 axis in the cycle, the dark cycle and the light cycle of Scorpio Taurus, means that unwittingly we are carrying a much greater burden than is necessary. It is simply not necessary that we be so burdened with the energy of the dark cycle. There is unquestionably a tremendous unleashing of the forces of Satan, the Satanic Council, and the councils of Satan are the councils of the Nephilim gods, the fallen angels, the Antichrist. There is a tremendous release of their darkness and a coming up from the very bowels of the earth of that substance for transmutation. Later on in this service, as we progress, El Moria is going to bring before us certain records of the earth that may go into the flame in answer to our call. We all have ties to those records. When they are cleared in the earth, they will be cleared in you. Moria says that many of you have very ancient substance on the 4 o'clock line, like encrustations. It's almost like an old pot or a piece of pottery that you have used so many times that the minerals of water have collected on the sides. And you're so familiar with this that it is no longer even cleaned because the pot can still be useful without a thorough scouring. And so these ancient momentums of rebellion in the mind, which is where rebellion is, and then in the desire body, then affecting the soul and affecting the heart, can swiftly be taken if you will release them and surrender them. It is not so much that they are a karma that cannot be taken, but that they are a presence that has been neglected. It's simply we forget about what's in the attic and the basement, and we don't make frequent enough visits to clear. Now, this particular substance of the 4 o'clock line is your Atlantean karma. It is the karma of Atlantis and all embodiments that you ever had on Atlantis, which includes interactions with laggards, Nephilim, fallen ones, all kinds of cults, the cults of the anti-mother goddess, the cults of Ishtar, the fertility cults and all that was done in genetic engineering, the misuse of science, a lot of very dark activities. There are many Atlanteans in the world today. I will be contacting them in the eastern part of the United States and Canada, stumping, and in Europe, both sides of Atlantis. It's very important that these records be cleared as much as is possible when we have the opening. So the scientific way to stump the nations and to bring our light is to be a clean knife. We can pass through any substance but still come out clean. Nothing clings to us because we have first performed this work in the laboratory of our being. Now, some of us are careless. I'll give you an example, the way in which 4 o'clock substance shows. It is, of course, a rebellion that can manifest as passivity on the surface, but beneath the surface, it can be a core anger. It can be a lethargy. It can be inattention to detail. It can be sloppiness. It can be the failure to recognize when one is not obedient to the Christ. I mean, in the face of an established precedent or rule or directive, we can do exactly the opposite. I find staff who work for me do this in all sincerity, considering that they have changed the procedure for a wise reason, and being startled to discover that, in fact, this is simply the bald-faced disobedience. It can manifest in a sloppiness of speech and an absence of organization of the mind and the teaching itself. I notice this is becoming an American habit, not speaking clearly, not giving a full idea, not giving a complete sentence, not communicating to me all the facts about a situation so that I can even give the proper prayers or make the proper decision, assuming that in the banter that goes back and forth, there's a mutual understanding at a certain level of what one is talking about, and therefore one does not have to use the precise words that convey the meaning, and therefore instead using poor grammar, cliches, a lot of jargon that becomes unclear, imprecise, and doesn't allow the rays of God, the rays of the I Am Presence to go with precision into a project, to go step by step through anything that must be brought forth in the physical octave. I attribute this to everything from poor education, from mass media, to the sense that words are not important, but somehow emotional communication is sufficient. I attribute it to the rebellion against the word, and El Moria was remarking to me today that that is exactly what the perversion of the 4 o'clock line is. It's a line of intense love, the love of the causal body of Gautama Buddha. It's the ruby ray cross 41017. It's the positioning of the Buddha of the ruby ray. We shout to the Buddha of the ruby ray, come forth. We call to him, and yet where will he sit in our temple? Is there a seat cleared? We go into this mighty temple. Each of us has a tremendous and vast temple within. You look like you have a small body, but you are big enough to hold a cathedral that holds 15,000 people. You have a vast presence inside of yourself, which when you get out of the sense of time and space, you literally do have a cosmos inside. And of course, many of the seats are taken in this great cathedral of yours. In many of you, they're occupied by very strange and alien-looking creatures. It becomes a menagerie that is there, and gradually, as you replace them, you find that angels are in your congregation. You are entertaining angels, and they may sit in your temple. So the question is, where will the Buddha of the ruby ray sit when he comes? Here is the 4 o'clock line. It is a vast section of your cathedral. It is the entrance of the gate to your holy city, to your large causal body that is above you. And this line must be cleared. It represents the Guru-Chela relationship. If you love me, keep my commandments. It's all embodied there. Love is the foundation of a relationship, and I can't even tell you how many reels of tape in my own computer of my Christ mind have the words pronounced upon them to me by Chelas saying, I love you, mother, but. And then the but is followed by the alternative path or occupation they are going to take instead of doing what is the most important need of the hour. And that need, what is it for? It is for the retention of this marvelous relationship we have with Serapis Bey and beloved El Moria. El Moria gives us the first steps on the path of the Ascension. He prepares us through all kinds of brutal as well as tender things that we go through in having to have torn from ourselves those things that simply maintain us as crybabies and spoiled children, and indulging ourselves and having all kinds of problems whereby we wind up being so neurotic that we don't even get out of bed in the morning. And we all know this course that if we follow it, we will follow it to the death of our spirits. So the 4 o'clock line is the precious Guru-Chela relationship that is based on loving obedience. Loving obedience. Loving obedience. Not mechanical obedience, not ritualistic obedience, not resentful obedience, not devious obedience, not obedience that is wanting in good cheer. And this is the amazing thing about obedience, because unless we come with a whole heart to the altar, what happens is that the magnet of our love is not great enough to magnetize the Master. And so what happens to the Chela that does not resolve this 4 o'clock substance? He puts in the time. He strives hard, as Cain would strive hard, very hard in the mechanical sense, to be able to say, I've done everything she told me to do, and she still is reprimanding me, or still is not accepting me. And this goes on, and the anger builds up, and the mechanical obedience continues until finally it becomes the explosion that says, she cannot be a messenger, this must not be the true path, I've never seen a master, I've never had the feeling of the Master's presence, and so on and so forth. But you see, the ingredients for failure of the Guru-Chela relationship are right here on the 4 o'clock line. And this is the year they will outplay themselves. And this is the year when those who transcend by the ruby ray judgment, that substance, will find a new heart contact with beloved El Moria and Serapis Bay. I cannot even tell you what a privilege it is to be called the friend of El Moria and Serapis Bay. And I come to give you the co-measurement so that I can impart to you the desire to be free of the debris, the paltry things that we still retain, when if we would turn them all in, we would get back the single jewel that is the prize to us all. The single jewel is love. The most amazing jewel of all is divine love. The whole world is seeking love. The whole world is taking less than divine love to satisfy their hungers. It's like if you knew, if you walked 1,000 miles, exactly on the 1,000th mile, there would be standing in the flesh Lord Maitreya. If you knew that for an absolute certainty, you would walk the 1,000 miles. There'd be a race out the door. We'd have our our backpacks on, we've had our water, we would have our victuals, and we'd be off. Well, you see, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. But the point is, what happens in the world, everyone wants the love of Maitreya, that's the goal. Some walk a mile and accept some cheap substitute. Some walk 5 miles, some walk 10. I've walked far enough. And they accept who is the merchant, who is the guy in the marketplace, who is the person that presents himself, who is the mirage in the desert of the beautiful dancing girl, or the most fabulous, handsome rock star you can find, and so forth. People are short-stopped before the conclusion because they are not certain that at the 1,000th mile they're going to meet Lord Maitreya. I am certain. I am more certain than I've ever been. I don't know how one can be more certain than certain. But I've always been certain, and I know that in fact, that certitude increases perhaps in dimensions and expansions and in the presence of the aura of the Master. I think it takes a certain experience, a certain trial and error, a certain knowledge that these stops on the way may be refreshing, they may be comforting, they may indeed provide us with human necessities that we could even call legitimate on this walk. But ultimately, if you want the highest fruit plucked from the tree of life, if you want the real thing, if you want the one thing that counts, you have to be sure in your heart that it is there, that you can have it, that you can go for it, and then you must be certain that the means you employ are not self-defeating, do not contain the seeds of failure. Given that we have the certainty of the Ascended Masters and the I Am Presence, let us then examine what it is in ourselves that allows us to take 10 steps forward and a couple backward, or to delay. Tonight we focus on the 4 o'clock line. We understand that this is the line on which the Satans or the Satans fell in rebellion against Christ, formed their councils. On this line is the false hierarchy, the antithesis of the great white brotherhood itself. On this line is the crowd of the fallen ones. Here sits Gautama Buddha on that very line of Taurus, holding the balance against the whole galactic network of fallen ones in conspiracy against the Lord God within you. This is an amazing line because when you get past this substance, you become a part of the great guild of the builders. This is the line of the building of the inner retreat. So anything that defiles the word within you and causes its compromise, including the word incarnate, you see, comes out of this not being right on the point of that consciousness. So inasmuch as so much is ready to be taken from the chelas and the keepers of the flame here and worldwide, Moria said, there is only one thing that I need, and that is consent. Give me your consent, and I will step in, and I will take it from you, and having so taken it from you, we may clear the planet. That consent comes through the surrender rosary, which I now invite you to give with me with your whole heart. How many of you do not have the rosary with you? Don't you keep it in your decree books? Now, I'd like to tell you that this is very unfortunate that this is not in your decree book. And rather than have them put in the decree books, I would like to have us have the surrender mystery printed and put in the third ray section. Now, what you have to do at this time is to see if you can see one. You come to the I surrender section, and this is the portion that is so important. You will hear it given. I ask you to pray fervently in your heart to give assent to the words you are hearing if you cannot see them. I think I'll make tomorrow's project the printing of Decree 33 and this rosary for our books. Probably if it is in the decree book, we'll give it more